The moon, of course, indicates your emotional state. Mars, your energy. Good, make it. You made it. Good, man. Okay. So, each sign affects how the planet functions. Any planet in the sign of Aries, for instance, will tend to be extra active. Any planet in the sign of Pisces, on the other hand, will tend to function more through the imagination. Pisces is very much shadows on the wall. What is a movie? Think about it. Shadows on a wall. It's not real, but people live in that imaginary world. There's people that literally go to every movie that's out, and that's what their life's about. When I was young, I remember skipping school to go downtown Detroit and watch movies. Of course, I got my butt beat up for that from my parents, but when the school called and said, "Where's Watson today? Where's Ron? He's not here." Of course, my brother was with me too, but he didn't get in trouble. They didn't know he was skipping school with me. So I'd go home and catch the hell and catch the beating. We'd always go home separate so we wouldn't look like we were together. And for some reason, they didn't call on him, they called on me, right? So, but I would never snitch him out, so he didn't get in trouble. But anyway, so movies, what are they? They're basically illusions. They're shadows on a wall. Think about TV too. Essentially, it's not a real world, although it's real because it brings you the world. But it's the world of imagination. Okay, here we are back to this. The houses are where your life, in your life, the planet is working the most. Any planet in your second house, for example, will affect your money, possessions, and planets in the fifth house will affect your love and romance. Fifth house is house of what? Leo. They have affinity with each other. Fifth sign, Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo. Leo's the fifth sign. So the fifth house, the fifth sign, they have a similarity energy. And so Leo, and the ruler of that house is the sun. So the sun is also an indicator of what? Romance and fun. And think about it. It's parties, it's good time, it's all those things. And it's kind of interesting, isn't it? When we have a birthday, we have basically a solar return. The sun returns to its place where it was when you were born. Okay? So what do we have when we have a situation like that? What do we have for a birthday? We celebrate, we have a party. And that's very much what the sun's all about. It's romance, fun, love affairs, it's entertainment and amusement, all those things that have to do with the sun.
Also the eagle.
The what?
The eagle.
Eagle. The eagle?
Yeah, if the person is egocentric.
Oh, eagle. Very much so. Yeah. Egotistical. The sun can be, a Leo can be, their greatest downfall is usually their ego. And I've seen that a lot, I mean, I really have in life. It's, if they've got a Achilles heel, it's that. And that pride and that stuff. And the thing is, Leo, though, gives a queenly or a kingly status. Kind of interesting thing about Leo. Leo rising in a chart. Jerome Cardan in the 1500s, he wrote 100 aphorisms about astrology, 100 of them, and I've printed them. I've got them all. But one of them is Leo alone ascending in a chart will always make a man or a woman master of more than norm. It's a very powerful place to have it, rising in a chart. Funny thing happened this week. Ed had me give me his time of his birth, and he said that the first chart I had done for him the time wasn't quite right, and he's got Cancer rising, he told me. And I said, I've done both the charts. So Leo rising is what I have. And for the other time, and the one he told me was Cancer, he thought it was Cancer rising. And I said, I don't believe that. I think you're Leo rising. Oh yeah, Ed says, but I'm a very sensitive guy, emotional and all that, which is the moon sign, Cancer on ascendant. I said, I don't believe it. I still see you as a Leo ascending, So I says, let me send you over, I think I was going to send you over your chart in an email, right? Oh, before that I'm talking about Leo, and I said Leo is the sun. Leo represents Samson in the Old Testament. And Samson slew the lion. That's Leo, the lion. And he was a very strong man, and he was known and renowned for, his strength. But it was a symbol of the sun in Leo that he was when he slew the lion. So I said, give me your email address and I'll send you over something. So he gives me his email address. Samson? What's your email address?
Samson8118@AOL.com. Now everybody on YouTube knows.
Yeah, that was on you watched the class on YouTube?
You know how much of a Leo I am? Hold on a second.
Yeah?
This is on the internet, right?
Yeah.
How you doing? Okay.
That's good. I like that. Yeah. Going to be the star up front. Get up there. Yeah. So anyway, so that's when we do charts, as an astrologer, you begin to see things. You begin to feel things. And for him to give me the Samson after I'm talking to him about Samson, I'm giving him a long talk about Leo and Samson. And I said, by the way, what's your email address? I'll send this over to you. Samson, I about fell out of my chair. So anyway, so his identity is already, he doesn't even know it. He's doing his own ascending. Leo ascending, he's doing it in his own life right now and doesn't even know it. You see what I'm getting at? So anyway, so yeah. Who was it? Who was it that said last week somebody was saying their chart was saying something about I got to make peace with Saturn?
Oh, me.
Yeah, yeah.
I have to make peace on last Saturday.
Yeah, she said that. And you know what she's got in her chart? She's got the Saturn exactly joined with Venus. Only a person that has Venus with Saturn would speak that. I got to make love to Saturn. I got to make, Venus. Only somebody that had that in their chart.
You want to know something?
Yeah.
This is true. It's not a joke. I have a tremendous appreciation for Saturn. After hearing all this,
Yeah,
it's nothing to be running away from. Oh my God! As a matter of fact, you want to go to the Saturn and you embrace the Saturn and say, you know what? I'm going to get better.
yeah.
Not to be afraid.
Yeah, he called me this week with this kind of eureka moment about all this, And I said, that's the best way to approach these things. Some people face life, and make challenges stepping stones, you know what I mean? And we talk about Saturn as a stone, the rocks and all that stuff. Well, the stepping stone is also Saturn. It allows you to become stronger. It's like running up and down a bunch of steps of stone till you develop great legs, you know what I mean? So all that is Saturn, and Saturn is the teacher. He's a hard, stern teacher, but he's a teacher.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
I read in a book that if you don't learn the lesson that Saturn brings during 28 years, you will suffer 28 more years. Is this true?
I think so. Saturn has a 28-year cycle. That's why it takes 28 years to come around the chart.
So you have 28 years to learn the lesson.
Yeah,
Yeah, well.
there's a lot to that.
Yeah, but you want to know something else? We look at it this way, it's almost, I guess, the inculcated about the religions and the lesson, fear, it's a punishment. It's not a punishment. It's something that we already know. Are we going to face the music? Are we going to address what it is that the issue is? It's not that we're going to, it's like planting a seed, and if you don't water it properly, you're going to wonder why when the harvest it's not as healthy. It's not punishment. It's just that so it's basically like saying, next crop, take care of it. And there's nothing to worry about. It's
Yeah.
fear.
Yeah, what'd you learn from your last lessons? Yeah, exactly. Very good. So what we're going to do here is when we look at these charts, we're going to look at the planets, the function of what they're about, their energy. If it's Mars or it's the Sun, it's the entertainer, if you would. The signs and how the planets function, and then the houses is where in your life they do. For example, I was born with Saturn in my 4th house. My 4th house rules early childhood. I had a rough life as a young child. I mean, I was brought up in boarding homes. I was taken away from, my mother and my father, and until I was 8 or 9, I was in a lot of abusive environments. Saturn was there, a hard teacher in 4th house. 4th house rules early childhood. So anyway, it also rules old age, by the way. It can be rough on you then. But and then the aspects are the angles between the planets, and these are what we're going to learn how to read. And I'm going to teach you more specifically than anything in this class. You're going to learn about aspects. You're going to learn how to read the energies and how they interact with one another. That's what makes you a good astrologer. That's what makes you able to really start to make a reading for a person. Say, my God, you have Mars squaring the moon. You know, it must have been a lot of pain and conflict with your mother, or you've got some deep emotional issues regarding your mother that you may not be in touch with. See, that's what Mars moon does. So these are things. And why do I dwell on these stress aspects? Because they're they're most significant in the chart. You say, well, Ron, what about trines and sextiles? They're good too. You need to, those are all positive things. But if you get set down with a client and you start doing this blue sky stuff, they're going to walk away and say, oh yeah, I expected that. They didn't tell me anything I don't know. You know, or you know, it's all blue sky. You know, if you're doing a chart, you go right to the jugular, as I always say in a chart. Go to the things that are the most critical, the crises in their life. They really know you know what you're talking about. Say, how could you know that? I mean, what is it that you could find that in my chart? So, anyway, okay. Okay, the signs in the houses. It's very important you know the difference. Sometimes there can be two signs in one house. And why does that happen? It's because of the shape of the earth and the elliptical form of the zodiac. So you may have, if you live in a high latitude, northern latitude, you'll have what we call intercepted signs, which means you could have Aries rising in the east, but you might have Taurus also in that whole house, all of Taurus, 30 degrees. And there's only 30 degrees in the house, but yet it's all compressed in that one area. The higher the latitude, the more you're going to see that happen. Won't happen much in this area, on this latitude here. But so, you know, that's another subject altogether, interceptions. But so remember that the 12 equal sections called signs are not always equal in the chart. They may take up more than one 30-degree space. The circle meets the eastern horizon is called the ascendant, or the rising sign, the ascendant or rising sign, Leo rising, Cancer rising, whatever the sign is. That's rising in the east. It's a very important, significant aspect. If it's where the sun rises in the morning. If you're born at 6 a.m., the first thing you should do when you look at a chart, anybody's chart, if they tell you that it's, you know, here's my astrology chart. First thing you do, look at the sun, see where it's at. If it's in the eastern horizon, which would be where? Would be on the left side of the chart, the first house. That's the east. The west is the seventh house, the opposite sign. So if the sun, let's say the sun's at the top of the chart, that's called the midheaven, or you know the MC. It's also called MC, medium coli in Latin. But that point at the top of the chart, the midheaven, if the sun is there, it tells you that that person's born around noontime. Well, if it's winter, it might be a little different, right? Because of the sun takes longer to get there. But the point is that if it's below the chart, they're born near midnight. If they're born in the evening, it's 6 p.m., you know the sun's going to be on that seventh cusp, on the right side of the chart. So the way to quickly evaluate a chart and make sure you did it right is to do that. I did her chart incorrectly, for example. She very quickly observed that. She said, this isn't right. She said, I wasn't, you know, I was born with my, what was the ascendant? Libra ascending, and you have Aries on the ascendant. What did that tell me instantly? Aries and Libra are opposite signs. That means I was 180 degrees off, or AM or PM. Instead of putting AM, I put PM. So the chart was off by that long, by 180 degrees. Everything is reversed. But she picked that up right away. Because when she told me the birth time, I just thought it was PM and it was AM. Yes?
Here's a question. In the terms of time, is it, as you go around the clock, can you be off by, like, keep it so that it's in the same general area? Is it plus or minus 30 minutes or an hour?
What
Like,
plus or
say
minus?
Like, say it's at noon at the top of the
Yeah.
chart. And so then to get to that next house is an hour and a half?
2 hours.
It's 2 hours. Okay, so if you're up 30 minutes is not.
Well, there's 12 houses, right?
Yeah.
And there's 24 hours in the day.
Right.
So that means, you see what I mean?
So noon to 2 is always going to be in that general. So even if you're off by 8 minutes or 20
You may not notice it as much.
You won't.
Yeah, yeah. But the quick thing about it is it shows a sign of somebody that's pretty astute. And when she showed me right away, she says, my ascendant's, the opposite sign, I instantly knew, well, I did a AM/PM mistake. But you should be able to look at a chart, anybody's chart, if they and if they tell you they're born at a certain time, you should be able to look at the sun and kind of say, oh, they're born around 12, so it should be correct if that's what time they were born. But what if it was down at the bottom of the chart? You'd say, it's a PM chart, it's not an AM. See what I'm getting at? Okay. So, the ascendant is just as important as the sun sign. Sometimes some astrologies don't mention this. The ascendant affects the way you start things and frequently the way you look. It affects appearance a lot. I've found over the years Capricorn ascending can be pretty hard in appearance. And it often gives a very dark appearance, especially even Saturn rising in the east. Saturn rising in your chart or Capricorn on the ascendant can also make deformities. Okay? It can afflict somebody that way physically because Saturn can stunt growth. It can cause problems in that respect. Or it can cause disability type of problems at birth. I've seen it many times. So, again, it's just, okay. The midheaven, the sign in the circle is called the midheaven. It affects the overall direction of your life. If you make a line from the ascendant, first house cusp, the opposite side of the horoscope, or the point where it hits, you naturally see the descendant or setting sign. The descendant affects the type of people you attract as a partner. Now, the seventh house is said to rule partners and relationships and marriage partners, things of that nature. But again, if you're looking at seventh house, some people say, well, I don't have anything in my seventh house. I guess I won't ever marry. No, that's not true. You have to find the ruler of that house and see what it's doing. So if you have, and for example, in her case, she has Aries on the seventh cusp. We know that now because we talked about her chart. So she has Aries on the seventh cusp. Where's Mars in that chart? And what is it doing? The second thing is, the other indicator of marriage is what? Planet-wise. Who can help me with that? Venus, good. So Venus, I always go to Venus right away. I want to find out something about her, okay? For example, she has Saturn exactly, if I remember right, conjunct your Venus, don't you? We're going to pick on you. Okay. Don't you have Saturn conjunct Venus in your chart? Let me look. Okay.
You mean Venus?
Let me look, yeah, let me look. Yeah, here's Saturn and Venus. They're joined together, and they're both at 17 degrees exactly together right here. See? So when I see Saturn conjunct Venus, that tells me several things. It can be many things, but it tends to bring a husband or a relationship that is very Saturnine. He could be a very strong business leader, or he could be very good, they're very controlling. That's what Saturn does. Saturn's control, limits, restrictions, and everything's got to be in place in order. He would be a demanding person to live with. He would also have qualities that would be very authoritarian. There's something about him, other men would look up to him. And am I right about him? Because he would be very authoritarian. He'd be Saturn. I'm the stern father figure. And people would relate to him kind of like son to father, where I would relate people, I'm more the son. People relate to me, and I relate to others, father to son, I'm the son. But a lot of men are the father. Her father's like that. And her father's a Capricorn. And your husband is? He's a Capricorn. So he's got all the qualities of what? Businessman, controlling, discipline, he does all the things that are of this, you see, but I can see all that from what? Just one thing, from seeing Venus is joined with Saturn. I didn't even go to the seventh house yet. You see what I'm getting at? Yeah. Well, she has Aries on that cusp of the seventh. Because remember, she had Libra rising, so that means the opposite sign is going to be the opposite, right? It's Aries. You all getting this? Am I going over your head?
A little bit, yeah.
Good, okay.
Okay,
Be honest
I'll
with
be
me.
honest, yeah, totally, yeah.
That's good. Talk to me. Don't be
I've been
afraid.
reading stuff, but it's just,
Yeah.
it's gonna take time.
It's, you know what, though? It's a lifetime thing.
Yeah, I know.
I've been doing this for, my God, since what, the 70s? Earlier than that, you know, I mean the 60s. How many years is that? Over 50 years I've been doing this. So, you know, but the neat thing with astrology is you never get to the point where you know enough that you can say, I know it all. You'll never become that way. You're going to always grow, and I think that's what I like about it. That's why I'm a photographer. I love photography. You know why? Because I never can learn too much. It's things, you never get to a point where you're so smart with a photographer, you know. When you think you're good, you see somebody else's work, you say, Jesus, look at what he did or she did. I got a long way to go to catch up with that. You see what I mean? And it's astrology the same way. I consider myself one of the best, not egotistically, not Leo-like, you know, I'm the best. But I think I'm one of the best astrologers in the country, quite truthfully. That's a big statement, isn't it? But if I don't believe it, who will? But I do believe it. And I don't mean it because I'm, you know, some egotistical person. I believe it because I've had so much experience at it and so many years of working in this field that I've garnered a lot of information that I can share, teach, and make other people learn. And
Nothing wrong with saying that, because if you say it about someone else, no one's going to think anything different. So if you can speak confidently about yourself, then of course
Yeah.
the proof is in the pudding. So
yeah,
that's the best way to talk. Insecurity is that, well, I don't want to talk this way. Why not? Just be direct, of course.
yeah. Well, you know, the word confidence is a beautiful word. It comes from two words. Con means to be together, to join with, to con somebody, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and fides is from fidelity. So, you know, we call dogs Fido, faithful friend. So, it's, you know, confidence means to have faith in yourself, you know, to be at one with faith.
Like having self-esteem.
Exactly, yeah. And it's the difference between that swaggering ego stuff, you know, that smart-ass stuff. You know, the ego, there's a side of that. But there's another side of us that's meant to be like this, to have a sense of faith and confidence in ourselves. And that's what makes us successful in life.
Absolutely.
After all, eating is selfish, right? We eat to nourish ourselves, so it's not about being selfish. The selfishness is an insecurity that I have to exert myself because I'm not sure. I have to prove to you I'm a certain way
Yeah.
for myself. So there's nothing wrong. I mean, that's the way I am.
Yeah.
I'm very straightforward.
Yeah. Well, you know, yes.
I want to go back to this, so you finish that.
No, we're done, we're done.
Okay, I don't want to make sure I understand, so you draw a line, so you basically, it's the line that's going, I don't really understand.
Okay, let's look at it,
You
okay?
take a graph.
Let's look at it. Let's look at it real quick. Let's just do this. There's the 12 signs right there, okay? Got 12 houses. We don't have to draw them in there. This is the ascendant here, right here. That's rising sun in the east. If the sun's rising,
Okay.
it'd be right there.
But does it, how long does it ascend? I mean, where
It ascends in the morning at 6 o'clock in the morning.
does it ascend, is there something ascending, is it going up?
It's rising this way, yeah.
Okay, and then when does, and it starts to descend from the top,
Up here, goes down,
and that's descending?
until it reaches 6 p.m. here.
Oh, okay.
Now that's 6 p.m., 6 a.m. would be when? You know, the springtime when the sun and the moon, I mean the sun rises around 6 in the morning. If it's winter time, maybe, and you're living in Boston, this sun may not rise here until 8 o'clock in the morning, in the winter, right? So if this was a December birth, and you're up in a northern latitude, the sun may be down here for a long time. My wife's born in Russia. When she was born, her sun was, you know, even though her mother said she just saw the break of light, but it was very, the times are so distorted because of the latitude. Anyway, enough of that.
Wait a minute, sorry, just, I still need to, so
Okay.
this is ascending from here to here, and then it descending from
The
here?
sun does, yeah.
What about this? Nothing?
Well, it goes through 12 midnights down here. The sun's down here.
Then it can
This
also
is
be
below, this is
descending?
the earth in the middle.
Right,
So it rises, the sun rises here in the
right,
east.
right,
It culminates at the midheaven.
right.
It descends to the seventh house, which is when it begins to get dark at here. It drops below the horizon here. This is the horizon of the west.
Okay.
You got it?
Yeah, I thought it went around under it.
No, that's good. You gotta never ask a question, feel like you can't ask a question in this room. No such thing as a silly question. All of them are important Because if you don't understand it, we're not progressing. Okay. All right, so make another line across the chart from the midheaven at the top of the bottom of the circle, and you have the nadir. The nadir is this bottom point here. It's called IC, immunocoli in Latin. This is midheaven, which is the top of the chart.
What do you call the one at the bottom?
IC or nadir.
Nadir.
Yeah. See here, the nadir shows something about your early home life. Do you remember I said earlier in my fourth house? The fourth house would be right down here. If you start with the first house as Aries, let's say that, it doesn't mean Aries is in it. You got these like this. So you got the first house, second house, third house, fourth house, fifth house, sixth. Then up here is the seventh, right? So these are 30 degrees apart, each of these houses. Now the signs may take up one or more of those houses. They may, and they don't fall right on the cusp. You may have 29 or 15 degrees of a sign on the ascendant, because they change all the time, the ascendants. The degrees of the zodiac are always changing. Every 4 minutes there's there's a change of a degree on a cusp of a house. You don't have to worry about this. Don't let that get to you. You don't get frustrated by this. It's not important for you to worry. The mechanics can be hard initially if you're not used to, if you're not mechanical, quite frankly. It can be a little hard to grasp some of it. But, so here, what am I saying? The nadir shows something about your early home life. Why? Because I said earlier, I was telling you I have fourth house. I had Saturn in my fourth house when I was born. And my early childhood was very neglectful, very deprived. I mean, I was even starved for long periods of time when I was raised by one family. They fed us water on our cereal every morning, my sister and I, and we were literally starving. And I got on a phone, I was only 6, 7 years old, and I called a number out of nothing, just picked the number out of the phone book. And I happened to get a hold of Mr. and Mrs. Davidson, and they were an old couple. And I told them about what was happening to us. And they said, what? And what's your address? And I told them, and next thing, this Department of Child Welfare was there taking us out of the house. And guess what? Mr. and Mrs. Davidson took us in. And they were the most loving people I ever met in my life. And they were just, I wasn't used to being loved, quite frankly, you know? But they were such a beautiful people. Here, honey, you couldn't take it. It's on. So again, you know, you say, well, Ron, poor Ron, you know, but you know, just like Ed was saying earlier, we grow through these things. We learn from them. It was my karma. Saturn is karma. It's karma. It's what you've sown, you're going to reap it. Not this life maybe, but next. Because Father Time doesn't forget. You know, for some reason I went through those experiences because I had to. I went through 9 years of imprisonment because I had to. I deserved it from some level. But yet, you know, you say, well, Ron, do you really deserve it? I created those situations so I would go there because I had to go to prison to bring this back to you, quite truthfully, to bring what I bring back to the people out here. And that sounds a little bit messianic. You know, I got a big purpose here, you know. I don't see it that way. I mean, I know what I have and I know what I give. I know that a lot of lives have been changed by my presence and my message. And, you know, I went through those experiences so I could learn how to overcome them and learn how to transcend them. Yes?
Just a quick yes or no, because it's a big topic. Do you believe in reincarnation?
Absolutely, very much so, yeah. Come on in. So much so. Yes, I do. We've been here before, we'll be here again, unless we get to the point where we don't go out anymore. And, you know, then we're taken up, and I think we just don't make that journey. Okay, so let's look next. Difference between houses and signs is similar difference between north, south, east, and west, and left, right, front, and back. The rising sign is always a sign rising on the eastern horizon, but that sign changes about once every 2 hours due to the rotation of the earth. This is the reason why it's so important to have an accurate time of birth to cast the horoscope. The houses never move or change position. That's important. Houses never change. First house is always first house. Seventh is always seventh. They're going to be the same. They never move or change. But the signs moving through the houses are changing with the movement of the heavens. If you figure it out, there's 12 signs of the zodiac. And if they're in 12 hours, let's say the sun's in Aries, In 12 hours, that sun in Aries is moving through that 24 hours, it's moving through all 12 signs. It takes 2 hours to go through a sign for those signs and those planets. So if 2 hours is times 12 is 24 hours. Pretty obvious, right? So that's why they don't, there's nothing static with the signs. Only thing that's stationary always is houses. It's very important to get that as an astrologer, is start working with this. And, people have a hard time with that sometimes, kind of seeing the difference. The houses have no names and are simply numbered 1 through 12, with the ascendant at the beginning of the house, the first house, and going counterclockwise around the circle. Counterclockwise meaning this way, Okay. Again, the signs affect how the planets act in your life. The houses show where in your life they have an effect. The cardinal signs. Now, we're going to get into the signs, the cardinal, fixed, mutable. Cardinal, fixed, and mutable. They all have qualities. If you have most of your planets in cardinal signs, then what I'm going to talk about now affects you. What are the cardinal signs? Cardinal signs are Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. Those are called cardinal signs. Okay? Aries, Cancer, Libra, and you're right. Let me show you. Okay? It's called a cardinal cross. So you got Aries, Libra, you got Capricorn up here, and you got Cancer down here. That's called the cardinal cross. If you look in your books, you have the cardinal cross in your workbook I gave you. And you also have the other crosses, the fixed cross, the mutable cross. The fixed cross are just what they sound like. Fixed are Taurus. Why do we say fixed? Because they're stubborn. Taurus, Scorpio, Leo, and Aquarius. Exactly.
Because it's the opposite. I just learned it right now.
Yeah, so that's a fixed cross. So if you have planets in a fixed cross, that means that you tend to have a stubbornness with that energy, those planetary energies. Mutable. I have a mutable cross in my chart, a grand cross. Planets making a perfect cross in my chart. And mutable signs. Mutable means mutate. What's mutate mean? Change. Mutate. I all my life, I've always ran away from conflicts and problems. I ran away from home when I was a child many times. I wanted to get away. I couldn't bear to be in these environments. And I would always try to run and escape. I'd rather not fight, I'd rather run. Okay? If you push me to a wall, I'll fight like a bear. But I mean, I'm just not, I'm going to run first if I can. I'm going to escape it somehow. Talk my way out of it or do something before I have to go to blows. But mutate means change. I will tend to run, okay? Mutable signs will tend to do that. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, Pisces. Good for you. And those are in your book, okay? And the difference between them really is significant. The cardinal signs bear down and will take control of things. They want to be in charge, yeah. Good for you.
Right at the get-do. Like I'm pretty even. I have 5, 5, and 6.
That's, yeah.
That means I'm more balanced?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I noticed when I did your chart, you have a grand trine forming with Saturn's almost in the grand trine. A grand trine is a symbol of somebody that's come into this life with a past incarnation of extraordinary talents. And in your case, I tell you what I got from you. And I don't, when people say, well, tell me about my chart. Everybody wants to know, and I'll do that as we go along. I'm sure I'll see things. But I can only give what I see. And sometimes I see things specifically. And this is going to sound a little odd for what I say to her, but I saw in you a past life incarnation as a high priestess in a temple. And you worked with energy forms. And you worked with, I almost saw something similar to what they talk about with Atlantis with you, as an incarnated being that came into this life to work with with energy forms on some level, and I don't even know what I mean by that. The fact that Saturn's trying to pull into that grand trine to me means that you are also have an affinity and knowledge, or should have worked with, or do work with rocks, crystals, minerals. What?
I've been getting those messages past week to work with crystals, I've been seeing pictures of crystals, I've been hearing names of crystals.
Yeah, that's what you're here for. Part of the work you're to do. It's only part of it, but that was very significant. Because that Saturn's trying to pull into that grand trine, it's not in there yet. This incarnation is going to bring it into play. And you're going to start really pulling that energy in. There's so much more. When I do charts, I get a quick look at them, and sometimes they speak, they kind of got a message to me. I've never seen a class yet. I've been doing classes for, my God, for, I don't know, 40 years. But I've never seen a class with such high energy charts as this one. Amazing charts. Powerful grand trines, real powerful energies in this room. So a lot of psychic ability here. And so anyway, you be doing readings for me in a minute if I give you time. But okay, so you notice the cardinal signs show where you tend in your life where you tend to take action. Now we're talking about cardinal signs, but remember, cardinal signs are Capricorn, Cancer. People don't realize, but Cancers are some of the best leaders and business leaders. We tend to think, oh, they're emotional, they're moody. You know, the word crabby came from where? Cancer, the crab. People that are irritable and quick to get irritable and emotional and upset, and you know, that's Cancer. They're hard to live with sometimes. Huh? Yeah, you got it. Good for you. Yeah, exactly. Uh-huh. Well, the Capricorn is, when we talk about Capricorn, as we kind of referring to it here, as a cardinal sign, show where your life would tend to take action. All those signs are good at that, okay? But Saturn is also good at that. Saturn's a very no-nonsense energy. Her husband's got that Capricorn. He's Capricorn, and that Saturn with Venus means he's a no-nonsense guy. He would be probably looking at this stuff and say, what kind of bullshit is that? Am I right or not? Yeah, nothing. Yeah, except what he can do and what he is. I mean, you know, these kind of people are very often the leaders of our world, or they're leaders of industry. You know, because they're no-nonsense people. People like those kind of people to take charge, because they know that they're not flaky, like me. I'm flaky. You know, I mean, good for you. Exactly. Everything, because see, Saturn energy in Capricorn is calculating, always calculating. And yes.
This also goes for 10th house?
Huh?
This also goes for 10th house?
Yeah. Exactly. 10th house energies, Capricorn and Saturn are all very similar. So you can take and you can kind of integrate. What you'll start doing is you start reading charts and you start understanding it. And believe me, the most important chart you'll ever study and read is your own. You know, Shakespeare said it best. He said, know thyself, and it must follow as the night the day. Thou canst then be false to any man. People say, well, you astrologers, you know, you guys are always so preoccupied with your own chart. I said, that's great. You know, how are you going to learn about others unless you learn about yourself? How are you going to learn how astrology works unless you learn it from your own chart? You know, and then you start growing out there. You start doing other people's charts, and you're going to find amazing things, you know. So, by the way, I see so much in this room. Powerful room here. This lady here is, I know your name, but I'm saying this lady here as an angelic soul. Whatever that means. She has an angelic soul. That's the message I got from her, and I get it all the time when I look at her. I know there's something there that's really powerful. She's a messenger, and she's not doing the work she's here for yet. You know, you're really meant to be touching people's lives in a real significant way, and helping people that are distressed. You know, you should be working with you know, yeah, clinics where people are going for help and there's looking for answers. I mean, there's so much you can give of your life, okay, but, you know, enough of this. You're just beautiful lady. Yes.
Critique this right now. I've just made an observation, maybe it's right, maybe it's wrong. Noticing that, okay, opposite Cancer is Capricorn. Very stern Capricorn, very soft Cancer.
Sensitive, yeah.
Very sensitive. Oh, well, that was that Libra? Okay, so that's Libra?
Libra and Aries.
Okay, so let me not think about Libra.
But Libra, they're opposites. Look at the difference.
Exactly.
Venus ruled and Mars ruled.
Right.
Aries, Libra.
Right, so because my first thing was going to say that maybe then, you know, Capricorns really would be like the worst, let's say someone who wouldn't be psychic. But then I'm also thinking, because of what I'm thinking, not just because of this class, but before this, and then this is just reinforcing my ideas, this idea about transformation. There's no transformation. You already got it, you know? So I would say that the Capricorn would be least likely to be a psychic, but then maybe because it's like a seesaw. So at this moment, Capricorn is blatantly this way, but all you gotta do in your sign is do this, and you could be exactly the opposite of what it is that you
Well,
could be.
here's the thing. It's not that Capricorns can't be psychic. They can be very psychic. It's not about
I
that.
mean, spiritual, like
Yeah, but it's not a.
Cancer is.
It's just that in many instances, you know, Capricorn and Saturn they deal with the real world. They don't have time for the fantasy world that we're into, quite frankly. This is off, you know, isn't it? You know, like, what are you about? My dad, he wasn't my real father. I didn't know that till I was 13. But he was always, his favorite expression, as I grew up all the time, was, what kind of bullshit is that? That was his favorite expression. And, you know, he was, you know, his world was the real world. There was no room for religion. I remember one time coming home, I was hitchhiking and a guy picks me up and he prayed over me. I had this powerful experience. I mean, I was just, wow. It was like amazing. I came home, I was like floating. And I tried to tell my dad, and boy, I mean, he just put that down right away. You know, like, there's no room for that in this house. So, you know, but to say that somebody is Capricorn, we have to look at the whole chart. We're doing a lot of stuff right now because we're talking about single things. But as you get into this, you start seeing that, wow, you know, some of the most powerful, we're going to be looking at charts, in fact, as we go along here. So let's move on. Aries, sign of action, initiative, new beginnings. It charges right in and holds nothing in reserve. Okay, let me get my glasses, I can read better. Your favorite time is now. The location of Aries in your chart shows where you tend to be active, energetic, and take initiative. There's an extraordinary side to this sign a contradictory side to the sign that in some areas are more like the sacrificial lamb. Now this is important. This is something you won't find in most astrology books, but I've learned over years it's true. You think of Aries, first thing you say, oh, he's pushy, he's aggressive, he likes to be charging forward all the time. There's another Aries side, and they're either one of the two, and the other is the sacrificial lamb, the Lamb of God, if you would. And then there's that pushy Mars type of Aries that just kind of he wants to be in charge of, always interrupting you and aggressive and all that. But there's the other kind, and I can't, quite frankly, I don't know why. I've never in all the years I've been doing astrology been able to distinguish why one's the other. One is one and one's the other. I don't know. I can't do it astrologically even. I can't look at a chart and say this is the lamb and this one's the ram. You know what I mean? I don't know what it is. I've never figured it out. But I do know that there's definitely two sides to the Aries side. Okay?
Do all the signs have two sides to the sign?
No, not really. I mean, this is the most I've seen, you know.
I was sure my point about the seesaw, but that's only one side, okay.
Yeah. So Libra, the sign of reaction. Aries acts. Libra reacts. Aries is individual action. Libra is joint action. Aries charges right in. Libra is famous for saying, on the other hand, or in social things, if you're going out with a Libra, that, you know, it's fun. Where do you want to go? Well, you decide. That's Libra. Well, you decide. You know, whatever you want to do, let's do. You know, and then after you decide what you want to do, but I prefer to go there. Yeah, you know that. Is that you? You look at you. I knocked her on the head there, right?
I'm Libra moon and
Yeah, it fits, doesn't it? Yeah. So Libras are that way. They just, they're very conciliatory, but at the same time, they tend to get their way. So, okay. Okay, it's where you tend to cooperate, seek partners, love, peace, quiet, harmony, and show good taste. Because, you know, Venus rules Libra, and of course, anybody has a lot of Libra in their chart, they're very good at decorating usually, and their homes are very peaceful. Huh? I didn't hear you. Harmonize, yeah. Your home is a place where people can feel at peace and harmony. And very often, again, with a Venus influence is strong in a chart, you find somebody that's been brought up with usually music or art. And they've had that in your life, haven't you? What kind of music did you?
I like music, I like everything related.
Are you artistic? Were you ever?
Yes.
Okay. So that kind of, because she has very strong Libra qualities in her chart. Libra rising, Libra, I mean, and Saturn, by the way, Saturn joined with Venus is an interesting aspect as far as art is concerned. It can make things beautiful through structure. Now that sounds, think about this a minute. It's good at building artistic creations or creating artistic things that have a good foundation to them. That's Saturn. Saturn's a rock, the foundation. Very good at defining things. That's what Saturn does, is define. It's not an abstract art influence. So the cardinal Cancer, sign of instinctive action. It will figure out a logical solution and then do the opposite because it feels better. Because what's Cancer? I feel. It's the moon. It can be enormously tenacious when denied something that it wants. As soon as it gets it, it loses interest. Think of the crab that grabs onto something. It wants it, you know, and it doesn't want to let go once it gets it. As soon as it gets it, it loses interest. However, Cancer is nurturing and emotionally sustaining. Without these qualities, life would be cold indeed. The location of the sign of Cancer in your horoscope shows where you tend to be moody, emotional, instinctive, and intuitive. Okay? So you can get a feeling of your own chart by looking at 2 things, 3 things in the chart to find out about this kind of energy. What are they? What?
Where is the moon?
Where's the moon? Good, that's the first thing. What's the second thing you'd look for? The sign. Cancer, right? Yeah. And the 4th house. All these things are integrated. So when you're looking at a chart, you want to look at not just the moon, you want to look at many things. You want to look at the house that it rules, wherever Cancer is in that chart, okay? You want to look at the aspects to that moon. All that's very important. So you're reading, in a way, you kind of, you're pulling it all in from 3 or 4 different ways real quick. And the better you do this, the more you do it, pretty soon you're going to sit down and it's going to pop out. It's going to talk to you. That chart's going to talk to you.
Do you want to look at Capricorn too, where it's at?
Huh?
Do you want to also compare where Capricorn is in relation?
No. And if I'm looking at the emotional nature of a person, I want to look at that. If Saturn is afflicting the moon, I'm going to definitely look at that. If Saturn is aspecting the moon, I want to know that. Because whatever aspect it makes will tend to bring some stability if it's a positive aspect, or instability if it's an aspect of
And the only
friction.
reason why it would be afflicting is because it's opposite. Therefore, Saturn won't be afflicting Aries, Libra will be afflicting Aries. Is that correct?
No, not the signs don't afflict each other,
Okay.
but the planets in the signs do. For example, if you had Venus, in her case, Venus is in Libra. Okay, Venus is in Libra, isn't it?
Libra.
Yeah, and it's joined with Saturn. So right away I get a message from that. Okay, without ever going any further with that. I mean, right away as a message. And it was describing her husband very well, okay? The fact they're together keeps them together too. If they were squaring each other, opposing each other, they would have been divorced. You see what I'm getting at? Because those are energies that tear us apart. Oppositions will tear us apart. Squares can do the same. Semi-squares are 45 degrees, half of a square. Those are said to be stress aspects. Am I getting over on this? It's starting to make sense, some of it? You know, don't be frustrated.
Now,
Yeah.
when there are so many squares, I have all of them.
Yeah, you have a lot of squares.
So if there are so many squares, it's because you have constant conflict, stress, opposition.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of that with those kind of energies. I have a grand cross of squares in my chart. Yeah, you know, so and I've suffered a lot in life. Mine are immutable signs, so that's mostly mental conflicts. Okay, the mutable signs are more mental. Because think about it. There's Sagittarius, Gemini. Gemini rules what? Mercury, the mind, thoughts, speech. I had Mars afflicting my Mercury when I was born. I stuttered for, I told you, I think last time we had a class, I stuttered till I was 12 or 13. I had speech defect. Okay, what does Mars do? It causes a problem. It can create a problem if it afflicts something. You see, Mars can mar your speech. You just use the word. Yes.
When you, like, if she mentioned she has a lot of squares, is that the chart pattern? Like, mine is a funnel. How do you know how if you have a lot of squares or a lot of...
You know what? That's that readout, okay? Where it talks about funnel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't read that.
You don't read...
I don't even use that, but I let you have it, okay? It's another astrologer's interpretation. You know, they got a lot of stuff, and maybe there's something to it, but it's just not my way of reading the chart. I want you to, when you're done with this course, you're going to be literally sitting down at a chart and seeing things popping out at you that you're going to understand clearly, not about generalities. I don't want you to be a generality reader. You know, it's a nice day to buy a dress. You know, that's what a lot of these psychics are about. I mean, excuse me, I don't mean to malign other people, but there's too much of this hokey pokey stuff that's not really right in there. This is the real stuff, what you're getting here. And you'll find out as you start working with it, it's going to be just revelatory for you. It'll open you up. If you've got any psychic ability, this will open it up so much more. I'm going to do this. I'm going to step back from this for a second. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to move over to what I'm trying to get you to do. And I want you to just start thinking. I want you to start thinking of the meanings of these energies. If I put up here Mars, square, or opposition, what is square and opposition? Is that a good aspect?